Right. I think we're going now. I think we're good to go. So, all right, we'll give it a few minutes here, or just a minute here for everybody to kind of get going here, get in, and let you know the pre-roll stuff going on. But anyway, let's get into it real quick. Let me get the disclaimers out of the way. Again, this is a weekly live broadcast. My name's Chris. Of course, you guys probably know that already. I do this pretty much every Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central. I don't have a topic planned out. I just do my best to respond to all the live chat comments that come in during the live chat itself. And let's see, what else? Unless you guys are talking to each other, which is fine. It doesn't bother me. I just tend to skip over those. So if you have something for me, but you start off talking to somebody else, like tagging them, I may skip over that comment. But anyway, I do my best to get to all of them. Hopefully, sorry, getting distracted by the comments already. The only things I ask, you guys can ask me pretty much anything you want. We'll talk about just about anything. Just keep it family friendly, keep it polite, keep it friendly. You can have a difference of opinion. You don't need to be hateful about it. It's fine. We can have a friendly debate. I like a friendly debate. There's no reason to hate somebody over a difference of opinion or call them names or any of those kinds of things. So let's get into it. First of all, let's make sure the mic's going okay. I think I got the mic fixed this week. Does it sound okay? I know I got lots of comments going already. I'll let you guys, there's a little bit of a delay, I think, from the time I say something to whenever the comments start coming through. So you guys let me know if it sounds okay, and I'll get into answering some comments here. We got 12 gauge from Mountain View, Arkansas. It says, dang, it's cold. 23 now, going down to 11. Yeah, it's like 16 degrees here, going down to 9, I think, is the low for tonight. So we got you beat. But yeah, it is cold either way. There's not much of a difference. Sounds good. Okay, good. I got the microphone fixed. I got it switched over to the correct microphone this time. So, hey, Ed got Bates here. Good to see you, Ed. Everything is going well. Thank you. Jeff Martin says, hey, all. Chris, looks like a seed starting shelf behind you. Yeah, it is seed starting shelf. That's what it is. I'm not really using it much yet. I do have a video coming out soon about some indoor gardening stuff that I'm going to share with you guys. It'll probably be a couple of weeks at least, maybe a month, because I got to let all this stuff get going. But it'll be a little while. I'm going to share it with you guys. I got some pretty, what I think is exciting stuff coming up. So we'll be doing that. Anyway, good evening to you, Jesse Mills. Hello to you, Robert from snowy Virginia. We got no snow right now, but it is darn cold out. And Toast, why not? Hello to you from North Carolina. Bags of Love also from North Carolina. And Mark Peters from Alabama. Where are we at here? Robert says, how old does a rabbit need to be before you can start doing stuff with the hide? Well, you could technically do anything with the hide at any point, but if you really want good hides, then you really need to wait till you've got a rabbit that's a mature rabbit, a year old probably, and in the wintertime. That's where you're going to get the thickest fur. You're going to get the best quality hide. If you're wanting to tan the hides and use it for like clothing and those kinds of things, it needs to be an older rabbit. You might be able to, sorry, getting distracted by some other comments coming in. You might be able to get away with doing that with slightly younger rabbits, but most of the time that skin is very, very thin. So it's really not good for much other than just like craft purposes and those kinds of things. But, depending on what you wanted to use it for, it might work just fine. If you wanted to use it to like line a hat or something like that, it'd probably be okay to use it for that as well. Anyway, hopefully that kind of answers that. Emergency prep guy from Idaho. Timothy says the microphone sounds good. Thank you, Timothy. Good to see you guys. Jay Moore says you're on time. Yeah, I am on time. I guess you're talking to me. I'm usually on time, aren't I? Marty says, hello, Chris and everyone from West Virginia. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Terry says, when do you start your plants indoors? It depends on which plant you're wanting to start. Look up what your average last frost date is and go back about 6 weeks usually. And that's when you're going to start things like the long growing things that don't get huge in the house. So like tomatoes, peppers, those would be the things that I would start indoor 6 weeks before the last frost date, roughly. Actually, what I usually do, your average last frost date, I usually add about 2 weeks to that and consider that my last frost date and then go back 6 weeks from there. So I guess it would be more like 4 weeks before the average last frost date, if my math is correct. Anyway, that's going to be your peppers, your tomatoes, usually like things like zucchini and summer squash and all that kind of stuff. A lot of those things I usually just start in the ground, or if I am going to start them indoor, I only do that about 2 weeks before my average last frost date because they get pretty big pretty quick. And You don't necessarily want to have the problem of running into having to repot them into bigger pots. And sorry, got distracted here again. You don't want to have the problem of repotting them into bigger pots, finding space for them, and all those kinds of things. So, like a lot of your, squash, I don't ever start cucumbers in the house. I start them outdoors. If you have a very short gardening season, though, you may have to start those in the house. But again, I would go just a couple of weeks before the average last frost date because they're going to get pretty good size before you plant them out. Hopefully that answers for you. If you have other questions about like specific plants you're wanting to start, let me know. I'll see if I can answer that one for you too. Where are we at here? Jill, hello from Avila. I know where Avila is. Thanks for joining. Glad to see you. I don't know what the sad frowny face is for. Hopefully it's nothing bad. But anyway, Toast Why Not says supposed to snow here tomorrow. At least my dog will be happy. Yeah, I kind of like the snow myself. I think it takes kind of the chill out of the cold. The bitterness, I should say, out of the cold. I kind of like it, but I may be a weird one. S. McKee says, I had a bird escape this morning. The last I saw of her was flying over the fence. Couldn't find her after that. No wild predators in the trailer park where I live. Should I be hopeful? Well, yeah, you should be hopeful. Who knows? Maybe one of the neighbors will find it. If they know you raise quail, they may find it and bring it back to you. I've had that happen before. But I've also had some quail that got out and escaped and never saw them again. But we do have some, like stray cats and, a fox that, is around the neighborhood and a couple of, probably a coyote or two around too. I mean, I live in town, but kind of towards the edge of town, not really the edge, but there is some wooded area and it does hold some wildlife. So it very well could have got, eaten by a predator. I don't know. But yeah, I would say hold out hope for it. You never know. And Timothy from Arkansas, good to see you. We got a lot of people from Arkansas joining lately. Let's see. Bobby says, hey, neighbor from Forsyth, Missouri. I know where Forsyth is. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. And Justin from Southwest Kansas. Good to see you too. Thanks for joining. Let's see. S.O. Swanson is talking to somebody else. Oh, says to S. McKee, probably cat food shortly. Yeah, you never know. Could be, but hold out hope. You never know. Like I said, I had a neighbor bring one back to me and said, hey, I think this is yours. And yeah, sure enough, it was. Justin says, ready to move my quail outside. Very hard to keep up with their mess right now. Yeah, I know that feeling. I just moved mine outside last, you guys saw the video probably last weekend. We got down to single digits last night, and they're doing fine. They're 4 weeks old. Well, going on 5 weeks old now, but they were about 4 weeks old when I put them out. I did lose about 4 birds all in all. Just one day, one the next day. And then a day later, I lost one last night when we got down to single digits. But the rest of them are all doing just fine. And I don't even know if it was the I don't think it was the temperature that got them. I think they didn't find the water, didn't get enough water, something like that is probably what got them. But anyway, it hasn't been too bad. Most of them are doing just fine. They just hang around the feeder in the water pretty much all the time. But who knows? Mark says, I bet you've been asked many times, so sorry. You're about my size. Compare quantity versus chickens. Like how many include with a meal makes. Okay, I think you're saying compare quail to chickens. Like how many included with a meal makes you full. Yeah, I may be about your size. I've gained a lot of weight lately. I'm a little over 200 pounds, probably 220 pounds right now. But who knows? I don't know what size you are. But I'm not really a huge eater. I mean, I only eat usually about once a day, maybe snack a little bit for dinner or something like that. But, usually we'll cook 2 per person. If you have other things with it, you're going to have some sides, a salad, something like that, a full rounded meal. About 2 per person is usually pretty good. I could easily, if I was just going to be really stacking up on the meat, eat 3 or 4 of them if I needed to. But now as far as chicken goes, the farm, the chickens we raised got them to about 5 pounds. Those are pretty good sized chickens. We'll cook one of those, and usually between my wife and I, we will. Hang on a second. I got to get some apps updating in the background, I think. And no, they're doing it automatically. We're good. Okay. So chicken, yeah, we'll usually eat. We'll eat the breast for one meal, and then the thighs, the legs, and all that. We'll use that for another meal. We'll get 4 or 5, well, probably about 6 meals out of it, because there's usually leftovers that we'll have for lunch the next day or something like that. Yeah, I would say 2 per person, with other things included, is a pretty good meal. Let's see. Lisa says, hey, Chris, how are the baby quail doing outside? I think I just answered that, actually. They're doing pretty good. The ones that, like I said, I did lose 4 birds overall for the whole week. Not all at the same time. It was different times, but I don't think it was because of the temperature, because, when you go out and look at them, they look like they're doing fine. I mean, they're not huddling together. They're not like fluffing up their feathers really big and acting like they're just freezing to death or anything like that. Most of them are just, and the ones I lost were in the sandbox. So I'm wondering if they just didn't get out of the sandbox, didn't find the food, didn't find the water, and maybe were just dehydrated. And then the cold may have gotten them. I don't know exactly why, but I don't think it was just temperature related completely. I did lose 4 birds though, but other than that, the rest of them are doing just great. No problems. Jennifer says, hey all, freezer camp this weekend, eggs going into lockdown Saturday, and a breeder group goes into their new home mid next week, running on quail time. Awesome. Sounds like you are pretty busy. So I'm glad things are going well. Jill says it's cold. Yeah, it is cold here. I don't know what a temperature is where you're at, but I said at the beginning when we first started, it's 16 degrees out right now, and it's going to get down to 9 degrees. We were down to about the same last night. 9 degrees, I think, was last night. And it didn't get up above 35 today, so it was pretty cold all day. Chris says, hey, Chris, it's been 31 days since I bred my rabbit. No babies. I've seen movement, though. Okay, well, yeah, give her a couple more days. Most rabbits are right at 30 days, but some of them will go 34, 35. If you haven't done it already, do the hay test. Just throw some hay or straw in there. And if she picks it up and carries it around in her mouth, it'll be pretty obvious what she's doing, looking for a nest or looking for a site to build a nest. Then she's probably pretty ready to have them. I'm probably going to have them that day. And make sure you have a nest box in there if you don't have it in there already. Hey, Paula Adams is here from McDonald County. I know exactly where McDonald County is. I like McDonald County. I used to spend a lot of time there and still do when I can. But good evening to you. Thanks for joining. All right. The entire population of Australia says chicken tastes good. Yeah, it does. I think quail tastes good too. Terry says, do I need to put a light on the plants indoors? Yeah, if you're going to be starting plants indoors, you need to put a light on them. That's one of the things I'll be covering in the video I'm going to be releasing, but it's probably going to be about a month from now before it goes out. But I will tell you, like, I use these cheap shop lights. You can kind of see them behind me. They're just standard shop lights like you would buy to put in a shop. And I buy one warm bulb, one cold bulb, or not cold, but cool bulb. And that refers to the color temperature of the light. So each one of those light fixtures has one of each in it. The warm bulb is like a 3600 Kelvin rating, and the other one's like a 6400 Kelvin rating or 6500 Kelvin rating. And those work just great. You could probably get away with both of them being daylight, which is like 6500 Kelvin. If you can find that. If you look on the bulbs, let's see, I've got a bulb right here. Let me grab one. I'll show you what I'm talking about. I don't know that it'll show up in the video very well, but there's an extra bulb I have right here. There is a, I don't know if you guys can see the writing on there. You may be able to see it right there, and it should say on the package, but this is a 6500 Kelvin. So this is a daylight. I think 6500. I can't hardly read that. 6500 Kelvin. It says right there. You probably won't be able to see it. Probably won't be able to read it. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus right there. I don't know if it'll. Anyway, you may not be able to read it, but it'll say on the bulb there. Let me put this up real quick. We'll talk. But yeah, you'll need excuse me. You will need lights though of some kind. Now that's what I use. You can get grow lights, actual grow lights. What I found with those is that they do work pretty well, but they're usually not very big. And with these are like 4 foot long. I can across that whole shelf. I think they're a little over 4 feet long, actually. So I can expand a pretty big section, and they're pretty cheap. I think I paid $10 or $15 for the fixtures each. And then the bulbs, I don't even know. They're not that much. $5 a pack, maybe $6. I don't know, something like that. But yeah, you need to make sure that those lights are, because these are not super bright lights. If you have a grow light, like a specific grow light for your plants. It may be a little bit different. If it's a lot brighter, you won't need to get them quite as close to the plants, but you're going to want them, these lights here, because they're not super bright, you're going to want them just almost touching the plants, just an inch or two above them. And you need to make sure your plants are under the lights. You don't want any part of it hanging over. What's going to happen if you don't have enough light, if you have the lights too far away, is your plants are going to be reaching for the light, and then they're going to get real leggy. So they'll get real tall and real lanky, and then they'll get weak and want to fall over. And it just, you got to have light on your plants. And hopefully that kind of answers that one for you. I did do a whole series on seed starting several years ago. Boy, it was like when the YouTube channel was still fairly new, but you can still find it. You can go back to my homepage on YouTube and check. There's a whole seed starting playlist right there that you can go through, and it'll tell you about the lights you need and all that kind of stuff and how you need lights. Now, again, that was, oh my gosh, probably 5 years ago. I mean, it was a long, long time ago. So, some things have changed. You can get grow lights a lot cheaper now than what you could get back then. So you may look into some different kinds of grow lights. What you would be looking at is, now you don't need to necessarily, if you're just looking at starting plants indoors, you don't necessarily need full spectrum grow lights, but I've seen some LED lights come out that are not that expensive. The key is going to be how big of an area do you need to cover? And that's really, I mean, those grow lights are not that expensive, but yet, anyway, hopefully that helps out a little bit with that, and you got what I needed. I just got a message that my connection was unstable, and then it went away. So if we have problems, that's probably it. Hopefully everything's still running smooth. It looks like it is on my end. All right, Herard. I don't know exactly how to pronounce your name, but I'm going to try it that way. Says, right now they're housed on our sun porch, and my hubby hates that smell, so I didn't know if they could be turned to outside bunnies. Did I answer this question already? I don't know if I did. I don't know if we talked about this already, if we're carrying on a conversation, but yeah, if you've got rabbits, they can handle the cold. You should be fine to move them outside. You said they're handled right now. They're on your sun porch, but yeah, you should be fine to move them outside. Make sure they've got a windbreak. Make sure they're not just out in a cage with the wind just blowing on them all the time. But as long as you got a windbreak for them, they're going to be fine outside. You shouldn't have to worry about that at all. Adirondack Quail, hello to you. Says hello to everybody. So Jill says, did you process your chickens yourself? Troyers by Stotts City are processing only chickens now. Really? Okay. No, I did process all our chickens ourselves. We just did them by hand. We only did about like 30, so it wasn't a huge amount. I've never taken my chickens to a processor. In fact, really up until about 2 years ago. 2 years ago was the first time we did our chickens. And it was, before that, it was, oh my gosh, I was a kid on my grandma's, at my grandma's place when she had chickens. And that was the last time I had processed a chicken. That was probably, let's see, how old am I? I was probably 30 years ago, a little over 30 years ago. But yeah, we've always processed our own chickens ourselves. I say always, like I've done it forever, but 30 years ago, I did it with my grandparents, my dad. And then 2 years ago, my wife and I decided we were going to start raising some chickens in the spring, meat chickens, and built a tractor. And then we just processed them ourselves too. So it's not really that hard to do. We tend to break it up. Well, we did last year, we broke it up in 2 days. So we didn't, it wasn't like 2 back-to-back days, but we did like half of them one day and then half of them the next weekend. So it really wasn't too bad. Hello to you, Boris. Good to see you. Toast Why Not says, had a doe have her babies on the wire. She's been a mom before and she's done amazing. Don't really know why she had them on the wire. I've had that happen before with experienced does and have never had any idea why they do it. Sometimes you just don't know. Most of the time it's a one-time thing, like they had their baby on the wire, and then every other time they had it in the nest box. But yeah, I always try to watch my rabbits the day that they're due. I want to know when they're getting ready to have their babies, and I keep a pretty close eye on them. And if she's having them on the wire, scoop them up and put them in the nest box right away. And if you can do that, they're usually just fine, no problems whatsoever. Bobby says, have you done any hydroponic gardening? I've done a little bit of hydroponic gardening, and that's kind of what the video I've got coming out is going to be talking a little bit about how you can do some of that. So I've got more to come on that one. Jay Moore says, I got a mini greenhouse and a cover in the living room. Keep the cats out. How that works, I guess. That makes sense. That's kind of funny. And the entire population of Australia says, do you have peacocks? Oh, gosh, no, I do not have peacocks. My neighbors would, well, the city for sure would come down on me if I had peacocks. They're not allowed in town. And I know why. When I was a kid, I lived in the neighboring city, Webb City, Missouri. And it's where I grew up, went to high school, and graduated from high school from. And where was I going with that? Oh, yeah. There was somebody that lived, good grief, about a mile from my grandmother's house that had a peacock, and we could hear it calling from my grandmother's house all the time. And that would get pretty annoying, I would think. So, no, I don't have peacocks. S.O. Swanson says, hey, from Memphis, let's hit the like button. Only takes a second. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Uh-oh. Entire population of Australia says the stream froze. Are we good to go now, I think? I think we're good to go. We still got, hopefully it's not still frozen. Somebody tell me if it is or isn't. I'm scrolling to the bottom of the comments to see if I get one that says we're good to go or not. Maybe we are frozen. Nope, we're good. We're good. Okay. Hopefully it was just temporary. Blessed with Pets says, hey, Chris, so happy yesterday. I finally got 3 fall offs, and one of the does, I don't know what changed, but the girl just figured it out. Thank you for your live streams. You're absolutely welcome. Hey, Ed comes in here and tells me the video is fine now, so I just didn't read that part. Yeah, you're absolutely welcome, and thank you for joining the live streams. I'm glad to hear that worked out. A lot of times it just takes persistence, and the does eventually will cooperate. You know, you never know exactly why. Blessed with Pets says, baby's due February 19th. I hope she does good with her first litter. I hope she does too. Good luck with that. And again, just keep an eye on her the day that they're ready to be, or that she's due. A day before, a couple days after, until she has her babies. Make sure she gets them in the nest box. Tony says, hey, from Toronto. Hello to you. Thanks for joining. Excuse me. Clear my throat out a little bit there. All right. S. McKee says, I had a quail burrito for lunch and I'm still stuffed. 5:30 right now. Yeah, I imagine. Quail burrito. I haven't done quail and burrito before. I've done them in quesadillas and enchiladas, but never a burrito. Lamongi says, good night, friend. I put a new quail male in with the group of quails and they did not accept the new guy. Do you think of him being too young or could have been an issue? Probably not. It's just a new bird. So if you try to add new birds to an existing flock, it doesn't matter what kind of bird you're adding, except for I've had really good luck adding young birds, like 4 to 5 weeks old at the most, adding those in with existing birds. Had really good luck with that. But much older than 5 weeks old, you're almost always going to get some picking on them, some bullying. A lot of times they'll get over that. It's just, you just got to let it play out and see. Sometimes it can get pretty rough though, and they can actually kill another bird. So you're going to have to keep an eye on them. It's just part, it's really hard to combine different sets of birds together. And you add one bird into an existing flock, they're the outsider. The birds get territorial. They want to beat them up. They'll eventually usually accept them in, but it could get really bad before then. You just never know. It just depends on your birds. One thing that can really help with that too, though, is if you have, if you do this during the wintertime, like you're not putting lights on your birds, so you're not keeping them laying eggs, you're not keeping the roosters crowing during the winter. They're a lot more docile when they're not in breeding mode. So whenever the females start laying eggs, the roosters start crowing, that's when you're going to get the most aggression out of them when you try to add new birds. And sometimes if you can do it in the off season, take the lights away from them, give them a couple of weeks, and then try to combine them, then you'll have a little bit more luck with it. It is a little bit tricky to try to get new birds mixed in, but it's probably just because it's a new bird. Toast Why Not says, yeah, I'm going to breed her again, see how she does. Going to keep a close eye on her. So we were talking about the rabbit that had babies on the wire, I think. Yeah, that's all you can do, I think. Good luck with that. Hopefully she does much better the next time. She probably will. Jill says, oh my goodness, I can do one at a time, but that's about it. I was happy to find Troyers and pay the $1.25. Yeah, $1.25. That's not bad. $1.25 a bird. That's actually pretty good. I'd consider doing that too if they were close to me. Stott City is, I gotta look exactly where that is. I know where it is, but I can't remember exactly in relation to me. I want to say it's about 20 minutes away or so. It's down by, Yeah, it's closer to Mount Vernon, so it's a little bit further away than that, but not much. 30-minute drive, maybe something like that. It's not too bad. Bob says, "Hey Chris, have you ever thought about buying or building your own beehive and becoming a beekeeper?" I have thought about keeping bees before. Haven't done it, but it's something I've considered. Who knows? Maybe I'll change and do it at some point. Heather Johnson says, "I blamed it on the locker room I walked into. Looks good now." What? I'm sorry, Heather. I'm totally confused. I don't know what we're talking about there. You're gonna have to help me out. I'm sorry. Blessed with Pets says, "Took me 4 months of trying to breed and to get them to breed." Wait, Heather, were you talking about? Wait. Were you talking about the video freezing and now it looks good? I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, Blessed with Pets says, "Took me about 4 months of trying to breed to get them to breed." Yeah, sometimes they're just stubborn, or maybe the doe just needed to age a little bit more. Who knows? Tom Ellis says, "Hello, everyone. My rabbit had her first kit. Only one, but she is healthy. And any suggestions on breeding more kits? Any suggestions on breeding more kits?" Okay, so your rabbit had a baby, but only had one, but she's doing okay. That's good. So I think what you're asking me is like, how do you get more babies than just one? That's a tough one. That could be a couple of reasons why she might only have one kit. One of them could be age. If she's an older rabbit, then, she could be aging out, and that could be a sign that she's about done breeding. If she's not an older rabbit, it could be a genetic issue where she's just not a good breeder for whatever reason, or it could just be a fluke thing, especially if she's a first-time mom. You said she had her first kit. I would just try again, see how she does on the next one. If it's a continuing issue, then you may need to look at replacing her with another rabbit, because it just may be a genetic thing where she's just not really cut out to be a good breeder. But I wouldn't stress about it until you have multiple issues with it, and see how it goes from there. All right, 12 Gauge says, "It's about time to order seeds." Chris says, "It's okay for me to say I sell my seeds and quail eggs on Amazon under Glasgow's Goods." Yeah, it's absolutely okay. If you want to mention, if you have an online store, you have something like that, mention it. It's fine with me. If you have another YouTube channel you want to reference, I don't care. That's fine. We're not in competition with each other. It's all good. So yeah, it is about time to order seeds. Check out Glasgow's Goods on Amazon. Jill says, "About what age do you quail stop laying?" Oh, that's a good one. It varies, I think, a little bit. It depends on, again, if you keep them laying all winter long, or if you give them a break during the winter. If you give them a break during the winter, they're going to be more likely to lay a little bit longer than if you were to keep them laying all winter long. They say that a bird, a chicken, a quail, whatever, is born with as many eggs as it will lay in its lifetime. So there is a finite number of eggs it will lay. And if you keep them laying all the time, that's going to shorten their lifespan on egg laying. But generally, you're looking at, they really start to slow down after about 18 months, 2 years, maybe something like that. They really start to slow down on their egg production. And much after 2 years, you're not going to get a whole lot out of them. All right. Tom says this was her first time. Yeah, okay. The rabbit that had the one kit. Yeah, give her another try. See how she does. VIP Funny Farm says, "What's the lowest temperature rabbits and quail here in Ontario, or Ottawa, Ontario?" It's -39. We took out all the rabbits and quail back home. We're keeping them in the basement until the temperature goes up. So you're in, let me check something here real quick. Are you talking Celsius? I think you are. Still pretty cold either way. Yeah, it says it's -3 there right now. So I'm guessing you're talking Celsius, and Celsius goes to -3 Fahrenheit. I've had rabbits and quail out in colder temperature than that. Never brought them in, and they did just fine. No problem whatsoever. Let me double check something else here, though. Let's see. You said -33 Celsius to Fahrenheit, maybe. No, that may not be right. Maybe you're factoring in the wind chill, -39, because I looked up the weather for Ontario, or Ottawa, Ontario. It said -3 degrees Fahrenheit. I did a conversion from Celsius to Fahrenheit, and it says that that's like -27. So you may be factoring in wind chill. If you've got a wind block on your rabbits or your quail, then the wind chill's irrelevant. It's the actual temperature is what you really need to worry about. And if it is -3 degrees Fahrenheit out there, which would be, let me transfer that over to Celsius because I can't do that. I'm a stupid American. And we don't use that scale. It's -19 Celsius. And I've had rabbits and quail both out much colder than that and do just fine. Blessed with Pets says, what's the size of an average first time mini Rex litter? Good question. I don't raise mini Rexes, but I would guess probably 8, something like that, but who knows? Marshall says, from East Tennessee, well, awesome. Good luck with your hatch. I hope it works. And those hutches have done very well for me. So hopefully they do very well for you as well. VIP Funny Farm says, am I overreacting? About the, where are we at here? About the temperature. Well, it depends. Again, I mean, if you want to be safe, then yeah, bringing them in is fine. Me personally, I've left my quail out. My rabbits stay outside all year long. We're not negative yet. Last night we were down to 9 degrees, and of course I don't have any rabbits right now, but we're down to 9 degrees right now. But last winter we got -5, -6 actual temperature, not wind chill, and none of the rabbits had any problems. I even had baby rabbits at the time. They were like 6-7 days old or something, and no problems whatsoever. Didn't lose a single rabbit. Didn't lose a single bird. So it depends. Again, if you've got good wind blocks, you should be fine. But if you really want to be, if you're really concerned with it and you want to be absolutely sure, bringing them in, who's to say you're overreacting? They're probably just perfectly comfortable with that. Aviary Birds says, having trouble getting any of my does to lift. Any recommendations? Been a problem for the last month or so. Yeah, it's a common issue. If these are not first-time moms, if they're, they bred before and then now they're all of a sudden giving you problems with that, you might try adding some light, get the daylight up to about 14 hours a day. That can have an impact on it, and see if they'll be a little bit more receptive at that point. Usually what I do when a rabbit doesn't want to breed is just persistence, try and try again. So morning, evening, morning, evening, morning, evening. Usually about 3-4 days in, they go ahead and lift and they're fine. And then again, the same thing I bring up every time we talk about this, because it's a common issue. People bring it up all the time, is I don't know why this would work, but if you take the doe, put her in a pet carrier, put her in your car and drive her around the block a couple of times, and then put her in with the buck, people swear by that. So there's got to be something to that. Who knows? It says we're trying to reconnect now. I don't know if we've lost video or not. Give me a second. Somebody respond if everything's working. Let me know. We may have lost connection. I see comments coming in, but I want to make sure that we're actually going. Okay, still good. Okay, I'll keep talking. You guys just let me know if we do lose video. I'm having apparently connection issues tonight. I'm afraid it's going to drop. It says my connection is unstable, but we'll see. All right, Tom says, Chris, I watched your chickens versus rabbit. Did you do rabbit versus quail video? I think I did a rabbit versus quail video. I've done that before. I have. I'd have to look back to find where it is, but you should be able to search it out. Go to my actual page on YouTube, go to the videos, and then you can search those videos. Just put in a couple of keywords and you'll find all the videos related to that. But yeah, I did address that, like which would be better, rabbits or quail. And I think, it really just depends on what you want. But, if you had to choose one over the other and you're looking for just purely meat production, probably quail, because it's just so much faster to ramp up. You can't just go to a rabbit and, twist their ear and make them have more baby rabbits, or even, as people in the comments section tonight have proven, can't even get them to lift all the time. Whereas quail, it's, you can set 120 eggs if you want, and in no time be up to 300-400 quail. So it's a much quicker, faster ramp up process. But, I like having both myself. Moon Outdoors says, hey, Chris, have you found your new rabbits yet for the year? I'm looking forward to talking to you again at QuailCon this year. God bless. How I'm looking forward to it too. I don't remember who you are just based on your name, but I'm sure when I see you, I'll recognize you. I'm really good with faces. I'm bad with names, and especially names on YouTube where I don't get to associate the name with the face. So it's a little tricky, but I will remember, I'm sure, whenever we get there. Oh, I haven't found new rabbits yet. I've been talking to a guy that's got some pedigree New Zealand's about an hour and a half away from here, so I may make a trip down there and get those sometime soon. I'm not sure. Balmax says, does green poop from quail always mean coccidiosis? Well, not necessarily. It could be a good sign of that, or it could be a good sign of multiple different things going on, but it doesn't always necessarily mean that. I would be concerned, though, and try to isolate them from any of your other animals so they don't pass that on. If you ever process them, you can check their livers and look for the white spots on their livers. That would be another sign that it's coccidiosis. Hopefully it's not. That can be a nasty thing to deal with. Jasmine says, hello, friends. Late, but here. Good to see you, Jasmine. Thanks for joining. And Blessed with Pets says, can you have two does together if one has babies? I don't have them together. I'm just curious. Probably not a good idea. I mean, yeah, it's possible to do that. Some people have had no problems with that. And, it can be done, but does can get pretty territorial, and especially once they have babies. So I would be concerned about some fighting going on between them. It's probably not a good idea to do that unless you have a very, very large space where they can kind of have their own area. I would avoid it. All right. Jupiter, good to see you. Jupiter says, hey, Chris, hope you and the missus are doing well. We are. Thank you very much. VIP Funny Farm says, we love your quail setup. Can you make a video on how you built it? I did do a video on building the quail hutches. If you go back to my, to my YouTube homepage and go click on the videos and then do a search for hutch. I think it's going to be how I built, building a new quail hutch or something like that. But just do a search for like hutch or whatever, and it'll come up with a list of videos. One of them is building my hutch. Is whenever I built it, I did a video on it. S. McKee says, I was doing 5 females to 1 male, but it became a chore. So I put them all in one big pen. I'm not breeding for type, but about to have 35 birds in an 8-foot by 2.5 foot pen, good or not. So 8 foot by 2.5 feet is going to be, yeah, you can get away with that. That's not too bad. What you generally want to consider is probably about 1 foot per square bird, or 1 square foot per bird. There we go. Get that out the right way. A square bird. That would be an odd sight. But so if you're looking at that hutch, you're at, let's see if I can do the math. 16. It's about 20 square feet, right? 8.5 by 2, or 8 by 2.5. 8 by 2. I better do math on my calculator here, because I'm going to make myself look like a fool if I don't. Make sure I'm right on that. 8 times 2.5. 20. Hey, I was right. What do you know? 20 square feet. So you could, 35 birds is really not too much to put into that. I think it's fine. I wouldn't go a whole lot over that, but you should be fine with that. What I find is, 1 square foot per bird is kind of the recommendations, but I put 40 birds in that, and they kind of all hang out. I mean, they hang out in much closer area than that, and they leave half the cage wide open while they're just all hanging out together in one little cramped in area. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about 35 in there. I think that's fine. Jennifer says, I've been thinking about rabbits, but I think red eyes are creepy. Is there a good meat rabbit without red eyes? Yeah, there sure are. Silver foxes are a great one. Giant chinchilla, or American chinchilla, I guess it would be. Cream d'Argent, I can't ever pronounce that word because it's a French word. Those are all good meat rabbits. Palominos, there's a whole bunch of meat rabbits that don't have red eyes. Standard Rex is a good meat rabbit too. So any of those would work. No problem. You don't have to go with a red-eyed rabbit. Silver foxes would probably be high on my list if I was going for one specifically without red eyes. That's probably what I would look for. But there's plenty. You can get away with lots of different rabbits for meat rabbits. Even Dutch rabbits would be okay. There's a bunch. All right, Blessed with Pets says, so my buck bred one of my does, but he attacks the other doe. I think it's because she smells like the other buck, but she got bit pretty badly. Interesting. I don't know what to tell you about that one. I've never seen a buck attack a doe. That's very strange. So let me make sure I'm reading that. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you on that one. That's a strange one. I've never seen that before. Let's see. Tom says my brother has his does. Okay, that's what it is. My brother has his does together, but they have always been together since he got them. So when they got pregnant, all the kits were together. Well, yeah, like I said, it can be done. It's probably like, if they've always been raised together, they're probably bonded, and that's fine. It's not going to be an issue necessarily, but it's not necessarily the best practice for most rabbits. It's again, there's an exception to every rule. So yeah, that makes sense. Hey, Vera's here, says, good evening. Sorry I was late. Google and the computer were being a pain. Yeah, that's no problem, Vera. We don't, Verna, sorry. We don't keep track of attendance here. We don't mark you tardy. It's fine. I just appreciate you joining. Thank you. Oh, look at that. S.O. Swanson got it right. He says he doesn't take attendance. You knew it. Blessed with Pets says he bit a chunk of skin and a lot of fur out of my doe. Was he attacking her, or was it during breeding? Because sometimes they will do that. Sometimes they will bite and pull a big chunk of fur out while they're breeding. But who knows? It's hard to say. Kim says, just saying hi from Montana. Love my silver fox and Japanese harlequin rabbits and Coturnix quail. Yep. Yeah, both of those are all great. I like silver fox quite a bit. If I wasn't raising New Zealand's, I would consider a silver fox. I've had one before. Tom Ellis says, I bought an 8-pound Dutch. Need her on the 11th of January. Is that weight good? What? Oh, 8-pound Dutch. I don't know what you mean by need her on the 11th of January, but is 8 pounds good? Yeah, 8 pounds is a decent weight for a Dutch. I think the adults usually range from about 8 to 10 pounds, somewhere right around in there. So she's. Verna says, yeah. LOL, yes, Chris, glad you're correct. I would say I did not play on what? Oh, yes, glad you corrected. I would say I did not play on Alice. I don't know what that means. You got me lost there. Alice, are you talking about what is that, Alice? Is that, I don't know. I'm going to say something wrong and be crazy. But anyway, Blessed with Pets says he attacked her immediately when I put her in, right after I bred the other doe. He latched on under her neck, and I had to force his mouth open while she was screaming. Oh my gosh, that's terrible. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Oh, you mated her on the 11th of January. Is that a good weight? Yeah, that's for Tom. Yes, that's fine. 8 pounds should be plenty big enough to go ahead and breed. Alice was a TV show. Okay, I wondered if that's what you were referring to. I remember the TV show, but just barely. I was pretty young. So I think what I saw was actually reruns of the show, but who knows? I didn't remember the character Vera on the show. I just remember Kiss My Grits and that kind of stuff from there. I do remember the show, but not real well. Vera and Flo was on Alice, the show about the restaurant. Okay, yeah, I know which show you're talking about. Blessed with Pets says the other buck wasn't pursuing her, so I switched to the other buck. That's when he attacked. Okay, so you took her out of the one buck's cage and put her in the other buck's cage. That very well may have been it. And now he attacks her every time. Are you sure she's a doe and not a buck? And just a thought, maybe something to look and just double check. People have made those mistakes before. I've caught up with the comments. How are we doing on time? We got about 15 minutes left. There we go. Donna, I'm getting my Flemish buck February 19th. Been looking for a year. Oh, well, good luck. I mean, I hope it works out well for you. I personally stay away from Flemish Giants, anything that has Flemish Giant in it. To me, they're just not good meat rabbits. And the reason I say that is any experience I've had with, now granted, I have not had a purebred Flemish Giant. And if that's what you want, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not trying to talk you out of it. I'm just saying, as far as meat rabbits go, in my opinion, they don't make good meat rabbits. And the biggest reason is their grow out rate is incredibly slow. Anything I've ever had, I've had a lot of New Zealand's that have been mixed with Flemish Giant. It's just a common thing people do around here to try to make them bigger. But what it ends up happening is that instead of getting my baby rabbits to 5 pounds by 8 weeks, it takes like 12 or 14 weeks to get them up there. So I try to stay away from Flemish Giant. They also have a little bit of a higher bone to meat ratio. So even though you might get a bigger rabbit, you don't necessarily get more meat out of them. But that's just my opinion on that. I'm not trying to say you've got a bad choice or anything like that. Just that's why I stay away from them personally. But so Blessed with Pets says 100% a doe. He didn't used to attack her. It's a new thing. I wish I had a solution for you. I don't know about that one. That's a different one. Kim says, I have a younger buck that doesn't like I'm sorry. I'm going to have to do something here. I'll have to do it later. Kim, I have a younger buck that doesn't like to mount correctly, but does parkour off the walls and sprays. Oh, parkour. Okay, parkour off the walls and sprays. That's kind of funny. That's yeah, interesting. I don't know what to tell you about that one either. Give him a little bit of time. He'll get the hang of it. Jasmine says, you may have already answered this, but how are the youngest quail handling the single digit day at night and chilly daytime? They're actually doing pretty good. I put them out last weekend. And you're from this area, you know how cold it's been. I lost 4 birds in total throughout the week. It wasn't all at the same time. It was different times, but I don't really think it was because of the cold. If you go out and look at them, they look like they're doing just fine. I think really maybe the ones that I lost were having a hard time finding the feed, hard time getting to the water, something like that. And maybe that made them more susceptible to that or something. But I lost like 1 or 2 the first couple of days. And then I lost another one last night. And then one day during the week. I don't remember. And one of the days I lost one, it wasn't even that cold out. So I don't know exactly why, but the rest of them are doing just fine. No problems. Verna says the leftover balut eggs have hatched. Got about a dozen so far. Interesting. I'm glad that worked. Jupiter says, lately my ladies have been laying eggs with very fragile shells. They're eating the same feed as always, and I've been feeding them and back the crumbled shells to try to supplement calcium, but not helping. Interesting. Yeah, I see that. I guess we need to probably, let's see what we can do here. What can I do? Remove, put user in timeout. Yeah, let's put user in timeout. See if that fixes it. I doubt it, but we'll see. Anyway, okay, so very fragile eggshells. Yeah, that's generally a calcium issue, but not always. Sometimes it can just be I shouldn't say it's generally a calcium issue. It's not generally a calcium issue. It can be a sign of a calcium issue, a calcium deficiency, but it's also really, really common with brand new egg layers, like birds that just first start laying, either first start laying because they first reached that age, or they took a break from laying and then started laying again. When that happens, you're going to get some weird eggs, some little soft-shelled eggs with no shell on them whatsoever. Big double yolk eggs. You're going to get weird eggs, and it takes them a week or 2 of laying to get kind of back in the cycle or in the cycle to begin with and lay some pretty good eggs. So it's usually nothing to worry about there. Sometimes you just have, established birds that have been laying forever, just lay a weird egg or 2 here and there. So I don't know if it's a big issue, if it's something to really worry about or not. Well, and you said your birds are almost 2 years old now. That could increase the likelihood of them having some eggs like that. But again, it's probably not a big issue. What I think most people do is that they kind of panic the first time they get an egg like that, or the second time or whatever they get an egg like that and think, oh, it's a calcium issue. And usually it's just kind of part of the natural egg laying cycle. They're going to lay weird eggs every once in a while. Moon Outdoors says, are you starting seed planting for your garden yet or soon? It's going to be a little while. We still got about a month probably at least before I start planting or starting any seeds. Our average last frost date around here is April 15th, and I always go really about the 1st of May. For tomatoes and things like that, it's usually around Mother's Day when I'm planting them out. So I go 6 weeks back from there, and that's when I start my tomatoes, my peppers. We kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but any kind of anything else that I start, I don't really start a whole lot else in the house, mostly just peppers and tomatoes. Sometimes some squash I'll start in the house. Sometimes I just start it right out in the garden in the ground. It grows fast enough. Same thing with cucumbers. I don't start them inside. I start them in the ground. Okra, start in the ground. Beans, all go right in the ground. There's not a whole lot that I start inside. So most of it will be done 6 to 8 weeks before Mother's Day. VIP Funny Farm says, oh wait, Blessed with Pets says, what do you do with frozen water bowls? Break the ice out of them and put water back in them. That's pretty much it. Or, it depends. With the quail, I don't use water bowls. I use like my feeders, Tupperware style containers with a hole cut in it so they can stick their head through and get a drink. If we leave it open, they'll just jump in the water, and then that's a problem. So I can't break the ice out of those because they're too fragile. They'll break. So I'll just bring them in and run them under some hot water and knock the ice out of them that way. I fill them up about halfway, let the birds all get a drink, and then I put water in them on top of whatever's frozen in there in the afternoon and let them get another big drink. James says, what do you think about the drop-down nest boxes? I've heard lots of good things, but I've never used any drop-down. Thanks, Jim, Mountain View, Missouri. Awesome. Another show me stater here. I've never used them myself. I don't think there's anything wrong with them. I know lots of people have used them and had great things to say about them. They look kind of neat, but I just don't have any personal experience with them, so I can't say one way or the other, unfortunately. Truck 3 Warden says, are there certain strains of quail that are more aggressive than others, or is this a breeder issue? Heard a horrible story. Not sure how true it was. The source of it was iffy. Hang on a second. Let me check something else real quick. Okay. So yeah. My experience with like when I had what do you call them? Texas A&M or fully white birds. Those were way more aggressive than my standard brown jumbos. But I think a lot of it has to do with just genetics. I think you can breed aggressiveness into them or out of them. So, whether it's the breeder's fault or not, I don't know that I would blame the breeder because, that aggressive gene could pop up in anywhere. And if you don't do a good job of watching for that and culling that out of your flock, then it could be something that reoccurs and becomes a more common issue as time goes on. Some birds can be really aggressive, and there are times where you're going to have issues with, birds pecking the eyes out of other birds and that kind of thing. I don't have hardly any problems with it right now. My birds are pretty mellow. That there's not a lot of fighting that goes on, so it's not a big issue. But I have had problems with it in the past, and I've had problems with it with, pretty much all the kinds of different quail I've kept. But right now I focus primarily, almost exclusively on jumbo Pharaoh, and occasionally I'll get some aggression problems with them, but it's been a while since it's happened. So it can be something that can be bred into them. I don't know that there's any one kind of breed or strain of Coturnix quail, especially that is more aggressive than any other just by nature. I think it's just a genetics thing that can be bred into them or out of them. Let's see. VIP Funny Farm says, oh my goodness, thank you so much for all the information. You are absolutely welcome. Jen says, I have some quail that are molting now and have bare backs. Weather has been very warm, but 2 nights ago it was 40 degrees overnight. They stopped laying since. I'm assuming that's normal. Yeah, it's normal for them to stop laying when they're molting. That's really what the issue is. The birds have the weirdest ability to just molt at the worst time ever. I don't know why that is, but yeah, they will stop laying whenever they're molting. If you're not using a real high protein feed right now, when I say high protein, I mean like a 27 or higher % protein level. You might try to add something to up the protein level. You can add like, ground up cat food or catfish food or something like that to kind of boost the protein levels a little bit. And that'll help them get over that molt a little bit quicker. It takes a lot of protein to grow feathers. And then once they're done molting, they'll get back to egg laying, assuming you have enough light. But yeah, it's pretty common. Jupiter says, I just hate wasting those eggs. I barely touch them and they break, so they're not good for eating. Yeah, it sounds like you're getting eggs with no shell on them. That's probably not a calcium issue. It probably is more like your birds are getting older and they're just starting to lay some weird eggs. All right, S. McKee says, when my quail water kept freezing, I smashed the ice and they ate it. So did fine. Yeah, they will. They'll chew on the ice too. I mean, you got to figure wild animals still have to drink water whenever it's freezing outside. They kind of figure that out. They'll eat snow. They'll eat the ice. They will get their water somehow or another. But yeah, you could do that for sure. Jasmine says, I'm going to start celery and herbs from seed next week. They are closer to 12 weeks before last frost date. Yeah, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to start some of those things, I've never had real good luck growing celery. It's never been one of those things. I never focused on it either because to me, I don't use a lot of, I mean, I do use celery, but I can buy a whole, bunch of celery for less than $1 at the grocery store. And that lasts me, like a couple of weeks, probably as much as I use. So I don't ever grow celery. It's just not one of those things. I do grow a lot of herbs. And you're right. Basil, I usually will start indoor around the same time as I start my tomatoes and my peppers. I could start it a little bit earlier if I wanted to. Also, what else? Thyme and oregano. It's already in my herb garden and it just comes back every year. So I don't have to start it. What else do I grow out there? Dill. Dill is another thing. I usually direct sow it though. It doesn't tend to do real well transplanted. So it just gets direct sowed right into the ground as soon as the ground's warm enough to work. But yeah, you could definitely start those things earlier if you wanted to. Verna says, I have sweet potato growing slips. Awesome. Thomas says, rubber bowls are great. Rubber bowls are great for the rabbits. But again, for the quail, I like to use something that has a lid on it with holes in the side because they will get in the water. And if they get in the water, that could be bad. But you're right. I love the rubber Crocs for the rabbits because you can stomp on them and knock the ice out of them. They don't break. Diversity Love says, hey, I want quail eggs. Well, there's lots of places where you can get them. Thomas says, starting an adventure with quail in Southeast Tennessee. Really excited. Awesome. I hope it goes well. How are we doing on time? We got about 4 minutes left. I'll get through as much as I can. We'll see. Kim Ramsey says, give them snow if you have it in between fresh water changes. That's a good idea. We don't have snow right now, but we have we got snow last week, but it only lasts for a day or two. We don't usually have snow that sticks around that long. Diversity Love says, are you in Missouri? Yes, I am in Southwest Missouri. Verna says, I call the bullies. Yep, me too. I don't put up with aggression very well, so I do tend to call the bullies too. Bobby says, do you ever sell any of your quail eggs or for incubation? I have sold some before, yeah. I do occasionally, not very often, because there's just not a huge local market for it. But I am not set up to ship eggs. So if you're looking to buy eggs to have them ordered in or something, you're going to have to go somewhere else. I would recommend, My Shire Farm's a great supplier. Whiskey Tango Farms, who's on the channel quite a bit, they're a great supplier. Kansas City Quail Farm's a good supplier. There's lots of good quail egg suppliers out there. You're going to have to go to one of them if you're looking to buy eggs. That's really probably your best bet. Now, if you live local to me, like Southwest Missouri, and you want to buy some eggs, I'd be happy to sell them to you. My birds aren't laying right now, so I couldn't sell you any right now, but I'd be happy to sell you a dozen or so if you want to come by and pick some up locally. But it's going to be spring at least before I have any to sell. Donna says, have you watched the Rabbit Center? His rabbit nest boxes are interesting. He also has bobby bees. I don't know what bobby bees are, but no, I haven't watched that. I'm not familiar with that. I'll have to look that up. Paul Adams from New Orleans. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Tom says the temperature is always 80 degrees Fahrenheit here, so I keep my rabbits in the shade. I give my rabbits a chunk of ice to help keep the temperatures down. Yeah, it's really more of an issue in the summertime for rabbits than it is in the wintertime. And if you're 80 degrees all the time, then yeah, they can get pretty miserable. Excuse me. Blessed with Pets says, it is okay for rabbits to chew up mats. I use the cheap car mats that are like felt in each of my rabbit cages. Also, how do you keep them from wasting so much hay? It's expensive because I feed Timothy hay. Yeah. Okay, so a couple of questions there. For them to chew up car mats, well, I don't know if that's the best option. I think I would look for something else maybe that's a little bit more organic. By organic, I don't mean like high price organic grocery. I don't mean it like that. I mean like natural, I should say, is a natural. So you can get, mats that are, they're a little bit more expensive, but you can get mats that are made out of like woven hay, that kind of stuff that would be a little bit better for them to chew on, or just give them something else to chew on and try to find something else. maybe a good hard plastic mat that you can put in there for a resting mat, or tile, ceramic tile, something like that. Give them a little piece of an untreated 2x4 that they can chew on, because they do need something to chew on. It's good for them. But I don't think that rubber car mats are a good idea. How do I keep them from wasting hay? Well, I built hay feeders that sit right above the feeders themselves. So it's just a wire. It's on the outside of the cage, and it sits kind of at an angle like this. It's just a piece of cage wire I built, clamped it on there, and I can stuff a bunch of hay in there, and they'll pull it out, and a lot of it will fall, but it usually falls right into the feeder. So that would be my suggestion. But other than that, I don't have a good way to fix that problem. Glasgow's Goods has quail eggs available for sale on his Amazon store, so check that out. Let's see. Diversity Love says, question, have you tried coconut coir as bedding? It's very absorbent. No, I haven't. Good. I guess it would work, but I haven't tried it. How are we doing on time? Right at time. Let's see if I can get through a couple more of these. There's not very many. Chris says, I can celery in small amounts. Interesting. I never thought about canning celery, but yeah. Verna says, you and quail both can eat sweet potato slips. Yeah, I didn't realize. I guess they could, but yeah, I've never tried to feed them. Jill says, where do you get that small of the rubber bowls? Usually at like Tractor Supply, any farm supply store usually has them. The crocks I use are about that big for the rabbits. They're probably, about that big around and about yay deep. So they're pretty good sized bowls. Chris wants to know how you start the sweet potato slips. That's going to be a bigger answer than I can get to right now, and I'm not the expert on that part, so I'd have to look it up. But Google search it. You'll find a video. Glenn says, how can you look at a bird and estimate the age? Boy, it's tough. I mean, I can tell you, you can kind of figure out if they're older birds or younger birds, but estimating their exact age, no, you can't really do that. The one thing that you can look at is their beaks. Beaks are like fingernails. They can kind of continue to grow. So older birds, like over a year old or so, are going to have almost like a cuticle. Their beaks tend to be a little bit curved over because they've grown out a little bit more, and they're going to have like a clearer tip to them, which is like the not the cuticle, but the end of your fingernails. Like a dog's fingernails or toenails, I should say. When you would clip them, you clip off that white part before it gets to the quick. That would be the same kind of thing with birds. You can tell they're probably a year or older if they have that, and a little bit younger if they don't. Let's see. Oh my gosh, they keep coming. I don't think I can get to the rest of them. Jill wants to know where I get my hay. I get that at usually a like Tractor Supply, any farm supply store usually has hay, and I go for Timothy hay when I feed hay. All right. Look at that novelty from Houston. Good to see you. I'm just kind of scanning these. Somebody else is in Southwest Missouri. Wants to buy eggs in the spring. Yeah, hit me up in the spring. We'll see how it goes. All right, I got to wrap this one up tonight. We are past time. I got to go get dinner eaten and go to bed so I can get up in the morning and go to work. Thank you guys all for joining me tonight. I appreciate it. I always look forward to Thursday nights hanging out with you a little bit. And I always thank you guys for coming in every Thursday night and making it worth the time. So I'm going to wrap this one up for tonight. Hopefully we will see you guys all back here again next Thursday. And in the meantime, God bless. See you next week.